evening, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got Gaas, the great American auto scene. Tonight in studio, as always, it's the lovely and wonderful Bruce Barker.
Hey,
Wait a minute. We've got Bruce hiding there behind the control tower. Do not look behind the curtain. He doesn't have one. All right, and over in the far corner, giggling her head off as usual, is Anna Octane. And coming into the studio today to help us is the president and founder of the Television and Motion Picture Car Club, Ken Latka. How you doing, Ken?
I'm so glad to be invited to this cluster, I can't tell you.
And we're running just a little bit late, so we'll go a little bit extra just to make up for it. Or we'll shut it off earlier, whatever.
30 seconds extra of show.
We tried to upload some photographs, and it just didn't work. So we're going to try and work on that while we're working on this, which is what we're working on throughout the evening. So we're going to have some fun. It's going to be a great evening. Again, I'm Hot Rod Bob, Bruce Barker, Anna Octane, and Ken Latka in studio tonight. This is Gaas, the Great American Auto Scene, the show about what's hot, what's not, what could be, and what should be in car collecting and car clubs. And we cover the gamut of it. And I've got to say this live because I told my wife, so far this year, I have not bought a new slot car. I'm really holding back.
That's awful.
It's going to last for a couple of days, dear. But, I haven't bought a new car yet, slot car, real car, or otherwise. So, I'm really restraining myself so far.
I don't know how you're doing it, man.
Yeah, any die cast? Nothing.
No. But I did get some new guardrail for the slot car track. And a new slot car track. It helps to stay up late. I was up till after midnight the other day, and I was getting on Facebook, and they've got the marketplace.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, this guy posts a Carrera digital slot car track, which is a track where you have 2 lanes, but you can run up to 6 cars.
Dang.
It retails for almost $400. He had it listed for $40. I was there the next morning.
Oh, no.
Well, actually, I was there right after we finished racing at Irwindale on Saturday. Picked it up for $40. I got it home, and my wife goes, "More track?" Well, we went over to our garage, and I put it in the garage. And I have a 5-foot stack that's 4 feet deep and 5 feet tall of Carrera slot car track and slot cars.
Holy cow.
That doesn't count what I've got at home, because I've still got the track at home that folds up to the wall when we're not using it, which never happens, plus a whole closet full of cars there and 4 cabinets downstairs.
Man.
So,
Do you know how you spell addict?
Yes.
B-O-B.
I have an addiction. It's cars. Well, we're here. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things tonight. John Buck is calling in from Grand National Roadster Show, and we will talk to him about the greatest show in the West, and that is the Grand National Roadster Show. It's going to be at Pomona the end of this month. Randy Cardoon and I will be there broadcasting live, and my wife's car will be on display in the Road Kings booth.
Dang.
So the first time that she has ever entered a car in a show of that magnitude, the first time I've ever had a car of any consequence in a show that of magnitude. So it's going to be there in the famous Road Kings booth. Now, this is a club that started in 1952, which members consisted like Don Perdome, Tom the Mongoose McEwen was along with us, Bob Barabbas, the freight train driver under Floyd Lippincott Jr., 19 NHRA world record holders, 5 Bonneville record holders, SCTA, and 5 Hall of Fame members. So we're going to be in the booth with them, and then Randy and I will be wandering around doing some live broadcasts right from the show floor. So we hope to see you. If we don't see you and you see us, come up and say hi. Anna, what do you got going on? You've been busy too in beautiful downtown Flakersfield.
First of all, I want to say that Peggy is a road queen, not a road king.
No, she's not. Yes, that is true. There is.
What am I doing? Trying to stay out of trouble. I'll be at the Grand National Roadster Show.
You will be there?
Yes,
cool.
With a special pedal car tribute to Bill Hines.
Oh, yeah.
Fun.
Great.
You have to come see it.
We definitely will. Now, where are you going to be so people know? Have you got your booth assignment yet?
Building 5.
Building 5.
Same place, at the door. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the Road King's going to be set up, but Randy and I will use that as our base of operations as well, and we'll be wandering around the whole show. I get there Thursday for setup, and then Friday morning is the breakfast. The press breakfast and the entry breakfast type thing. I'll be there for that. And then Randy will be there either Friday or Saturday night, or Saturday during the day, Friday night, Saturday during the day. We'll be there Saturday and Sunday. We'll be interviewing people and talking to those that we can taking a look at some of the cars, showing you what's hot there, and moving on to the award presentations that'll happen Sunday evening for the Grand National Roadster Show.
I am quite certain that one way or another, you're going to see a lot of images and footage of a lot of those cars here on the Great American Auto Scene, the next edition of it in February.
We do. The second Tuesday in February, we'll be back with more photos and more information on Grand National Roadsters. Right now, we're waiting for John to call in, but Anna, you had something that you wanted to talk about that we saw in the state of Michigan. We talk about crazy laws in California, and we're going to be going over a new one of those. But in the state of Michigan, military vehicles cannot be registered for on-road use.
There's so much happening in the hot rod world, and if we don't pay attention, we're going to lose the right to drive our classic cars, because once it starts in one state, it starts going everywhere else. So in Michigan, they passed a law without telling anybody that military vehicles can't be used in parades anymore.
Well, they can't be registered for on-road, and the outgoing Republican governor decided to veto this after an overwhelming vote by their House and Senate to approve licensing these vehicles.
Right.
And what comes into play is, even though the Hummers and such that the military used meet all federal standards, they don't get that 17-digit VIN. They get a military vehicle ID number, which is 6 digits. And the state of Michigan will not allow something with less than 17 digits that's new or relatively new to be registered. Now, that makes it real difficult, because when you look at it that way, hot rods and cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even before did not have 17-digit VINs. And the 17-digit VIN number, digit yeah, did not come into play until the 1980s. So cars before that, I ran into that. We talked about this a few years ago. I ran into that here in California, where in the 40s they registered cars to the engine number.
Sure.
And my car was registered to the engine number, which is no longer there. So the new engine number you can't see. Well, you can see, but doesn't match the registration.
Yeah.
So I had to have a VIN verification done on my vehicles. It wasn't too difficult in the state of California, although they messed it up the first time. So I had 2 vehicle VIN numbers and 2 registrations they wanted me to pay. But we got that straightened out. It's not that difficult, and California has a special law that if you're doing a special construction car, which mine's not, but if you're doing a special construction car like a hot rod that you're just building from scratch, there are 750 that you can register in the state of California as the year of it appears to be. And this was, we sometimes refer to that as the Coddington Law, because Coddington got raided at his shop, and they found a 64 Ford that was a kit Cobra. And they didn't know how to approach that, because obviously Shelby never made fiberglass Cobras.
Right.
Although he does now. Or Shelby
and
American
wait till you
does.
hear what's happening with the Cobras that they're making now. We'll talk about that,
We'll
too.
talk about that, too.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about. And like I said, John Bucket should be calling in any moment now. We'll talk about the Grand National Roadster Show. But the military vehicle thing, and Anna brought this to my attention, we didn't hear anything about this until the last minute, until after it was vetoed. And now everyone's scrambling, because the guys that collect military vehicles, they want to use them in parades. They want to use them 4th of July, Memorial Day, and they do exhibitions, they do shows. Well, now, because these vehicles do not have a 17-digit VIN, they can only register them as off-highway vehicles. Which means they can't bring them on the street.
Well, and the obvious question, you might have sort of answered this, but I still can't quite get to the, I drive a car every day that doesn't have a 17-digit VIN. So how does this extend then to street-driven cars? Now, you're not going to drive a half-track, on the street every day. But if you're driving any car that has less than 17 digits in the VIN, what's the story there?
Well, and that's what is part of the problem with the state of Michigan, is if you're looking for a 17-digit VIN to register a vehicle, hot rods, muscle cars, and so forth do not have that. So a new vehicle getting registered in that state is going to be, this could be a problem for other people, not just military vehicles, although right now it specifically targets the military, the retired or the surplus military vehicles. Because when the military sells something, they look at the use and they say, well, okay, it's reached 75% of its value in use. So
but the other thing that's concerning is first they said they could be off-road, and then they sent, the DMV sent the military vehicles that were off-road and saying, now we're revoking your registration completely.
Yeah, it's confusion.
So they're not really, I mean, what worries me is that we're going to lose the right to drive what we want to drive.
It's a good possibility with the state of Michigan doing this now. Again, the House and their Senate overwhelmingly approved the bill to allow them to be registered, and the governor vetoed it on the last day of his time in office. So now they've got to start the process all over again. It shouldn't be a problem because it wasn't a bipartisan problem. There was one no vote against it. So it should go through again, but now it's just the delay. It took all of last year to get this done. Now these cars are parked. They can't go anywhere. It's a tough situation. But online with us right now, the man who has brought the Grand National Roadster Show to Southern California and made it the biggest, bestest show around, John Buck. John, how you doing today?
Great. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Glad you could call in. How's the planning on the show? We're only a couple of weeks away.
Oh, don't remind me. Yeah, it's coming along great. Anna knows. Anna knows.
Boy.
It's a lot of work, and she's a wonderful lady. And you know, I'm just thinking about what you've done with bringing the Heinz little, is it the little bat? Is that what that's called?
Yes, it's the baby bat, and we even did a papier-mâché doll of Bill, and we're bringing his tools and his welder, and wait till you see.
And
bring a cigar.
And the cigar.
Never disappoint.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
She's painted it with lead-based paint,
great.
too. Just in reminiscence of Bill, just lead-based paint, so you know.
No, we actually used lead bar in the grill, so we used his actual lead sticks within the build.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. You'll see.
So your car's now a biohazard.
Oh, it's lovely. It's just lovely.
Yeah, don't mention that on the air.
No.
They just did.
You coming to the show.
So, John, tell us about what's hot, what's not, what's going on with the new Grand National Show for this year.
You know what? The 90th anniversary of the Model A, and we've got Building 9, which is our feature room. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We've got the a la carte coming down from Northern California, which hasn't been out. Yeah, I mean, isn't that cool? I mean, you know, good old John is going to go up there and forklift that car down out of his second-story hiding place and bring it down. We've got the Knee Camp Roadster coming. We've got Gary Medder's yellow Model A coming. There's 107 cars that are going to be in that room, and I can't mention them all, but they're just amazing. And so
well, you know what's exciting about the Knee Camp? That's the very first Grand National Roadster winner.
Yeah, that was the Amber car.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the first AMBR winner. Yeah, you're right.
That's going to be cool that it's going to be there.
And speaking of Amber, we have 14 cars this year, 2019, that are going for the Amber, and we've got guys like Steve Mole, Leonard Lopez, Pinky's Rod Shop building a car for George Petit that are coming. They're just going to be phenomenal. We're really excited. There's a couple Phaetons that I'm looking forward to seeing. There's some traditional roadsters. There's some over-the-top roadsters that we've seen in the past, and so it's going to be a good mix of cars coming. And I can't wait to see those.
And you got the outside show.
The drive-in.
Yeah, the outside show is going to be amazing. The drive-in's always wonderful. You know, we usually get 600 to 800 cars on Saturday and about 400 cars on Sunday. And it's really cool with our weather. And knock on wood here that we don't have rain that weekend. They say it's an El Nino year, but it's looking pretty good right now. So we're hoping for the best there. Chip Foose is our builder of not the year, but the decade. I went back over through history and looked at all of the builders of the year, and I didn't get a lot of records when I took over the show, and I started putting two and two together, and I realized he's never been honored. So we said, you know what, instead of builder of the year, we're going to make you the builder of the decade. So he's got some amazing cars coming from all over the nation. Some builds like the Stallion, which is a classic coupe that was built back for the Riddler Award back in Detroit. The 0032, which won the Amber, is coming, which is we actually use that car on our business car. It's such a cool little piece. And going to have 10 cars. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, he's quite a prolific builder. And, mentored by his dad, Sam, who we lost recently, bless him.
We did.
Yeah.
We're going to have a moment of silence for Sam at our Hall of Fame dinner. That's on Friday night at the show.
Are you going to tell us who won Hall of Fame right now?
Yeah, you know what?
Who
Would you
won?
like to know?
Yeah, I want to know who won.
So we've got 4 guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame inducted this year. The first guy is an amazing guy with the interiors, and his name's Ronnie out of the Rialto area. And if you can guess his last name, then I'll give you $5.
I don't know.
Oh,
On Gaas? Is it Ronnie on Gaas?
Ron Mangus.
Oh, Mangus.
Oh, Ron Mang. I thought you said Ronnie.
Well, you said Ronnie. That's
Ron Mangus.
I call him Ronnie because he's a friend, and he's been around for years. And he's trained guys like Gabe. He's trained guys like Mark Lopez out of Montclair. He is a master upholsterer, and so he's being recognized this year. We have up in the Bay Area. The son of a very famous guy, Pat Ganal, his son Bill Ganal, is going to be inducted. And a funny story about Bill, he went up to work for Roy Brizio a few years back, and he actually was going to go up north to be an engineer, and was working for Brizio just to make some money while he was going to school. And he said he loved to build hot rods. And this kid is absolutely amazing. He built some of the most amazing rods around, and so he's being recognized. Tom Kelly, the very famous pinstriper who used to work with the guy up in Bakersfield. I think his name was, what was his name, the striper up there?
There was Alton, Kelly, and Roth.
Ross, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so Kelly's being recognized. Yeah, that's going to be great. And then last but not least is Pete Santini, who's a painter down in Orange County who's done some amazing work out there. And he's actually Steve Stanford's landlord. And yeah, so I mean, those 4 guys are amazing, and they were voted on by their peers, and they will be inducted this year. So it's really cool.
That's great. That's great. That's going to be a good thing. Now, you've also got how many cars do you expect to go inside the buildings?
Over 500 cars go inside the buildings.
Wow.
So, like we talked about earlier, Anna Marcos helped us with the Heinz a little bit, and we've got a display of Larry Watson cars in that same building, 4 of them, including the Moonglow and the T-Bird by Larry Watson.
Wow,
Roger Odell
exciting.
3 of those cars. So that's going to be really bitchin'. Gene Winfield in that same room, he's actually, there's a new owner of the J Idol. He's bringing that car.
Oh, good.
So we're looking forward to seeing Gene. I think he's back on his feet after breaking his hip. And it's there's so much stuff coming out. It's just so exciting that I can't tell you it all.
So vendors, cars. I mean, this is the ultimate, and music. This is the ultimate car show. You're going to have pinups there as well this year, John?
Absolutely, we'll have pinups there, and there's 12 of them that we had to go. It's kind of tough. We have to pre-decide who's going to be involved in the contest and have a couple of backups. But we'll have the pinup show on Saturday night, and then in the Suede Palace, we've always got entertainment, some rockabilly bands. Saturday and Sunday outside, we've got, if the weather's good, we'll have a rock and roll band out there. So we're gearing up, ready to go. We got some fire-ups going on. The late John, I'm drawing a blank here.
Ewald.
Yes, Ewald, and the gentleman that is taking over his car will be out there firing up.
Mario Garcia.
Yeah.
Mario is such a great guy.
He really is.
You got guys that are in our car club, so
Yeah, a lot of these names that you're mentioning, from
Yeah.
Foose to. To Johnny Ewald, who we lost. To so many others. You're showing pictures of Troy Ladd's car.
Yeah.
Another one that's in our club. I mean, the GNRS is just such a fantastic show. And
I think we got this guy Bob Beck coming in.
no, you actually going to allow him in?
Yeah, well, I'm going to squeeze through the gate
we'll allow
there. Yeah, Randy and I will be broadcasting live, doing our podcast from there for talking about cars and Great American Auto Scene. And John, my wife's car actually got entered in the show and is going to be there too.
Oh, so it's your wife's car. Great. Yeah, I saw your name come across my desk. Every car I approve. I'm old-fashioned. I go through them all, and so yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. My wife's looking forward to this. Everyone I know, and this is going to be a great show. You've gotten that show bigger than it ever was. It keeps growing every year. What are you doing? Can you put your finger on exactly what you're doing that keeps making the show get better and better every year?
No, it's all about the people that help us out. Like I said, if it wasn't for gals like Anna and you guys and really helping promote the event, we wouldn't have an event. And I think that the car guys are just special. And, I love the perfectionists that come in and want to have the 20 by 20 end caps and they do their thing. And I love the guy that drives his car. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, we encourage the guys that bring their cars in during the weekend that the next year they bring them back to the drive-in, because I think the cars should be driven, and I know there's points involved in the ISC, the International Show Car Association, but it really comes down to the people and not just the cars. But the people are just special.
Yeah,
well, you're special because you're a car guy and you're helping keep the culture alive by allowing us car kooks to have a venue to get together and hang out, for 4 days.
Yeah, thanks, Anna.
Because your show is a party. It's a it's like a 4-day party.
It's a great time.
Yeah. From load in till the awards ceremony. It's rocking.
All right, John, anything
That's
you want to
for sure.
tell everybody about the show, the model car contest, too? Maybe I ought to build a model car. We got a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you know what? You do have a couple weeks, and that's always a blast. Yeah, you just remember it's the 25th through the 27th, and come on out, enjoy it, and let us know how we do.
All right, sounds great, John. Thank you very much. The show opens Friday at noon?
Yeah, noon. Yes, and we'll go to 8 o'clock on Friday night. Then 10 o'clock on Saturday. It's a busy day, 10 o'clock until we close at 8. And then on Sunday, 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock. And that's when the award ceremony starts. And we go about till 7:30, 8 o'clock.
All right, that'll be great. The Grand National Roadster Show, everybody, don't miss it. You will be upset if you do, but this is one amazing show with more cars in one area, more top cars in one area than you will see at any other show on the left coast. John, thank
Happy
you very
New
much.
Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, John.
Happy New Year to you guys, too.
Thanks for calling in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks, John.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Oh,
You cut him off, Bruce.
your trigger finger's a little too quick there, Bruce.
That's right.
They call you trigger
guard back on.
Yeah, all right. All right, with us in studio, as we said before, is Ken Latka, the president and founder of the Television and Motion Picture Car Club. Hi, Ken. And,
Again.
I'm going to hide.
yeah, you're going to hide. Anna, Bruce, and I, as well as a number of people that were mentioned just a moment ago with the Grand National Roadster Show, are members of the Television and Motion Picture Car Club. And every year there are a number of events we do. I missed it this year, but you have a movie event. And I was lucky enough to actually see both these movies beforehand. But tell us a little bit about it, and then we're going to show you some clips and some trailers on these movies and a little bit about the event that we did.
Well, we actually, every year, we do an end-of-the-year annual movie night, and it's a way for our members to get together and honor other members who have produced and directed films. In the past, we've shown such famous movies as Smokey and the Bandit, which was directed by one of our former members who passed, Hal Needham. And then I can't remember the other. I think it was the Shirley Muldowney film, Heart Like a Wheel. And TV Tommy Ivo, who's another of our members, had told a story how he had to put a wig on so that he could double for. Yep, it's true. For Bonnie Bedelia, who was playing Shirley in the movie. And apparently the Road Kings and others did never let him forget about that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Especially after some of the things he used to do to Perdome when Perdome traveled with him, or they were competitors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no.
Tommy's just a hoot. But so anyhow, over the years we've shown several movies. And the year that we did the Heart Like a Wheel and the Snake and Mongoose film, we were honoring John because he had just passed. So in the years since, and we had other movies before that and other movies since, but this past year, we'll show a video in a little bit. Bruce will be pushing buttons in a bit.
Yep.
But he's showing you right now some stills, and that's Paul Newman's Trans Am winning Nissan, one of his championship winning cars that was supplied by Adam Carolla, who's another member. There's Jeremy Thomas from French Television, who's taking some video of the car, which you're going to see in the upcoming video in a bit. That's Steve Markowitz Markowitz, one of the producers over at CBS Television City. And it's just such a fun event. So what we ended up doing this year was honoring Chassis Media, which is a company owned by Adam Carolla and Nate Adams. And they're both writer, producers, directors, and they did a phenomenal job with 2 of the documentaries that we screened that evening. So it looks like Bruce might be ready to roll this thing, so I'll shut up and let it roll. Basically what you're looking at here, in case you're wondering, are some of the exterior shots of the people arriving, some of the cars they drove in. Debbie Evans, a very famous stunt driver who drives for Michelle Rodriguez in the Fast and Furious movies, rolled in her Dodge Viper, and then her husband Lane drove in that beautiful red Ferrari. So right now, basically, it's just the people assembling. There you saw Anna at the check-in table and the gift bags we had from Vista Ford with some items from Drop Stop and Liquid Glow and just all kinds of goodies that were in there. And then we have a Step and Repeat banner there where all the pictures were taken. These are all industry people inside here. So you can see we're at CBS Studio Center.
There's Randy.
There's Randy. So I'll shut up and let it go full audio from here. So I wanted to welcome all you guys to our annual movie night. For those of you who are new members and may not have met me yet, I'm Ken Latka, the president and founder. Tonight we're honored to celebrate the work of Nate Adams and Adam Carolla of Chassis Media as we screen 2 of their award-winning documentaries. First, we're going to watch Winning: The Racing Life of Paul Newman, that chronicles actor, producer, and director Paul Newman's love of racing. Then after intermission, we'll screen The 24-Hour War, that chronicles the battle between Ford and Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in the 1960s. I hope everybody was able to check out Paul Newman's Trans Am Series race car that's on display under the tent outside. Nate's going to give you more information on it, but he just told me that Adam was really kind to swap out the car he was originally going to give us with this one, which just happens to be one of the championship-winning cars that Newman won a championship in. So on behalf of our members, I want to thank him for allowing us to display one of the really, really special cars from his personal collection. Unfortunately, Adam isn't able to be with us tonight, as you may or may not have noticed, because he has to attend a wedding. He really wanted to be here, but this came up. Anyway, he asked us to play a brief video that I'd like to share with all of you now.
Hey everybody, it's Adam Carolla. Sorry I couldn't be with you tonight. As you know, I like cars. I'm so touched and honored that you're going to screen our films, 24-Hour War and Winning: The Racing Life of Paul Newman. Do not worry, my very able-bodied accomplice, I said accomplice, she hasn't really accomplished anything, accomplice, Nate Adams, is going to walk you through both documentaries. Once again, sorry I couldn't be there. Somebody is getting married and I have to go to the marriage. Can you believe what a Enough with that floor jack! That's why you got to get the aluminum ones.
So as Adam just stated in the video, his accomplice at Chassis Media is his actual partner, Nate Adams, who's one of the talented writers, producers, and directors of the 2 documentaries we're going to watch this evening. So with that said, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce fellow member Nate Adams of Chassis Media.
All right. Yeah, so as you saw, Adam is actually a car guy. That was filmed at Rennsport last weekend at the Porsche event. We were racing Paul Newman's Porsche 935 that won his class at Le Mans, took a true second in 1979. You will learn about that car in the documentary tonight. The first one we're going to screen is Winning the Racing Life of Paul Newman. And it's very special to me because I got to spend a lot of time with Paul's brother Arthur, and Paul was I never personally met him, so I just got to meet everyone that he raced with and everyone that he spent time with. When he first started, he was 47 years old, which if anyone who races cars knows you're past your prime if you're getting in a car at 47. He won his last race when he was 82, and he started to hear all the stories about Paul's driving, and when he first started, he really sucked, and he admitted that he really sucked. But he just kept going to the track, and he just kept practicing and practicing and practicing because it really meant something to him. Adam heard all these stories, and then he said, I want to do a doc on this, and he went to ESPN and said, hey, let's do a 30 for 30, and they was like, nah, it's not good enough story. And so Adam said, all right, I'll pay for a doc, So we worked on it, took us about 9 months, and this is the documentary that we ended up with, is Winning the Racing Life of Paul Newman.
When you get out to that track, you sit down in that car, whatever it is that's roiling around your head, it just goes right out the window.
You could tell that this was a big, big thing in his life.
He made the movie Winning and kind of fallen in love with racing.
He was 48 years old when he started.
The only thing that I ever found any grace in was an automobile.
He wanted to be looked at as a driver, not as an Academy Award winner.
He wasn't so much divided between the two. It was that film would come second to racing.
He was terrible at first.
The studios didn't want him doing that.
I mean, they think, oh, Jesus, what is he doing in a race car? Is he crazy?
Oh, Newman and Bowman have gone off!
The only way that you're ever going to win a race is just to be right on the edge of it all the time.
His whole career looked as though it was going to go down the drain because all he wanted to do was race.
I think everybody wanted him to quit racing except him.
They'll have to strap me down before they keep me out of these things.
There was a tendency to write him off as an actor. It's very, very difficult with celebrities. They're used to being a winner, and in racing, you got to pay your dues.
You're always competing with yourself. You're trying to bring a little extra to your performance.
Well, I think he liked the camaraderie, the fellowship of that relationship with a fellow driver. There's nothing like it. It's not anything you can have in Hollywood at all.
He was really a good driver.
It's Newman's 4th national championship.
Pressure to win grew as he did win, and people expected him to win again.
People didn't even think of him as being a movie star racer. He was just a racer.
He was that classic red-blooded American boy.
Paul has a saying, I'm sure you've heard, where he says, winning isn't everything, it's just all there is.
You see it with the Oscars. People vote. They say him or her. In this, you either cross the finish line first, and it's either him or her.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it, and, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them, or we can go eat. Yes, sir?
Can you tell a story about the Joanne Woodward engraved Rolex that they recently auctioned off at Paul's?
Yes, Paul always wore the same Rolex Submariner watch when he raced. If you watch this film, you will see it on his wrist nearly every time he races. In the program, the car, I believe it says it's a 300ZX Turbo from the 80s. It's actually the 1985 GT1 National Championship car. So it's actually the car that Newman won either his third or fourth national championship in. He won them back-to-back years. You got kind of a little more of a special car. That car is... We have 3 of the 4 cars that Paul Newman won national championships in. We have the Triumph from 1976, and we have the 1985 GT1 car and the 1986 GT1 car. Yes, sir.
So how many hours of footage did you start with?
Seemingly 1 million. The ratio is sometimes like about 100 to 1 hours, 100 hours for an hour. But you end up with 8mm, 16mm, 35mm, 1-inch, digibeta, everything.
Well done.
Well, thank you. Oh, thank you guys.
Okay, so basically what you're looking at here... Oh, I'll let Phil talk first.
From start to finish had my attention captured from start to finish. There were so many things I thought I knew about Paul Newman. I really thought I knew, but I clearly didn't know nearly what his life was and who he was and what he did. Very impressive. It was well-produced, well-written. That was a great experience. Very happy.
So this is basically the intermission between the 2 documentaries that we watched. We did watch the 2 full-length documentaries. Basically, for the sake of this recap video, we just put the trailers in. Everybody full? Everybody happy? Yeah. All right. The next film is another award-winning documentary from Nate and his team at Chassis. It's called The 24-Hour War. And it chronicles the battle between Ford and Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in the 1960s. So I think you're going to enjoy the movie. I'd like to invite Nate up. I think he wants to talk a little bit about it.
This film took a long time to get together. The thing I'm very proud of about this film is this is one of the most famous, lasting stories in automotive history. Ferrari has never ever participated in anything on this story, except for in this documentary. So it took me 1.5 years to get an interview with Piero Ferrari and Mauro Fiorgari and the Italians. It was not easy because they lost. But I mean, what you have to understand is at this time, if you know racing history, they had won 9 out of 10 years ahead of that. I mean, they were unbeatable in the world of racing, in any kind of racing, Formula One or endurance racing. And they were a very small, shop, kind of like Shelby, where they were just guys that won, you made a car in a barn, basically. That's what Ferrari did. And they were the only people in the world who did that. So thank you guys all for coming out. I really appreciate it, and look forward to hearing what you think about the film.
It was the greatest rivalry in the history of racing.
All the Formula One stars, alongside all the sports car heroes, drove in it.
The most dangerous sporting event of any kind. 2 titans of the automobile industry waged war at the biggest race in the world. It was the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Death was almost routine at racetracks.
When you got in the car, you had to be ready to die.
But the car that would win is the car that people wanted to buy.
By the mid-1960s, the name of the game at Le Mans had become Beat Ferrari.
Ford had nothing that could compete.
We didn't have that performance that customers wanted.
Henry sees a Ferrari win and says, we need those red cars.
He felt the easiest way to do it was just to buy Ferrari.
Ferrari said no.
That's when he decided, we're going to beat you, and we're going to beat you at your own game in your backyard.
The GT40 is furiously fast.
When they went to bigger engines, all of a sudden, all the drivers were smiling. That's when we started seeing some real speeds.
Cars were running quick, but we had all kinds of engine problems.
With the race only 1/3 through, the Ford challenge had been shattered by Ferrari.
Henry Ford II was pissed.
He made it very clear that we were not going to fail again.
The Ford-Ferrari rivalry, that is the golden age of racing.
There were two great enemies that were going to have some great races.
It has been a great battle, a great fight.
It's really a part of the history of motor racing.
People all over the world were watching this one race. Who was going to win it?
All right. Well, thanks for everybody for sitting through 2 documentaries and not falling completely asleep. Go ahead.
Some people thought that maybe Ford was given an unfair advantage. Did you uncover any of that in your research?
Here's what I've uncovered is that I originally, I think if you look at the DVD extra section of this, there's a whole section on how these guys cheat, because they all cheat. There's a really funny story about the GT40. They put a block. It was I think it was a 4x4 block that all the cars had to clear at Le Mans when they test the cars. And the GT40 couldn't clear it because they tried. So when all the guys walked next to the wheel wells and lifted the car up about an inch so that it would clear that block. They all cheated. Just so you know, I mean, it was racing.
How do you get Ferrari to be a part of this? I feel like this is the biggest humiliation of their company.
It really wasn't. Ferrari was the size of Shelby. Ford was the second biggest company in the world. I mean, this is not. They're not even in the same hemisphere of money that can be spent. The number that I got was $150 million that they spent on the GT program, and at that time, and that's more than $1 billion now. It was part of their lineage, and the way that I posed the question to them was, you don't want me to tell your history without you telling it. So I just stayed on them, and they have eventually caved.
What do you think is the key thing to telling a good story?
You have to find the human element to any of these stories of, whether it's Paul Newman or, the Ford Ferrari story. Really, it's a human story of kind of David and Goliath. It can't just be facts and figures and things like that. You have to find human elements that you can grab onto. And if there's humor in it, you should try to find that too. These documentaries would not be made. Adam makes these on his own dime. You don't have very many people who are willing to go out of pocket to do something that they love. So, if you ever get a chance, you should thank Adam for being willing to take the risk to make a product like this. Because he just does it because he loves the stories. And that is the only reason that he does it.
So basically what you watched was a recap of the Television Motion Picture Car Club's 2018 movie night where we honored Chassis Media. We watched the entire documentaries, as I mentioned, during that little intermission break we had in between when we showed the first trailer and the second. But if you really, really enjoyed the trailers, you'll love the documentaries. They're so extremely well done. And they can be picked up at www.chassis.com. So CHASSY.com. TMPCC.com. And that is Adam Carolla and Nate Adams' company, and they've got not just the 24-hour war and winning the racing life of Paul Newman, but so many other feature-length documentaries that are worth watching.
Wow, I'm already seeing stuff I want to watch.
Oh, yeah, no. My wife and I got to see the original, when they originally released Winning, and the quality of what they're doing is amazing. These are excellent videos. These are not like, okay, let's put something together, we'll get some old photos. They did a very high-level job on doing this video, and if you ever watch the old GT wars and followed Paul Newman's racing career at all, you've got to get this video on Winning, because it gives you the history of Paul Newman's racing career. It doesn't talk too much about his movie career as much as it showed he really wanted to be a race driver as well, and the movies financed some of that. Then he became the team driver for Bob Sharp, and that was the team that Nissan was sponsoring at the time. They were dominant. You could not beat them, and Paul Newman was one of the top drivers. Now, the other thing it shows, and you saw that in the video, Paul Newman was not infallible. He did crash, and the movie goes into depth on some of that as well. So you get the movie if you like that, and if you're into the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the old Ford GTs, the 24-Hour Wars, excellent movie. I've gotten to see both, and they are something I'm going to put in my library. I know that, because they are that good.
They
well,
really
you know
are.
the Le Mans was precursor to the Shelby Cobra being developed by Ford as well.
Yeah, it was one of those things, and they took the Cobra over there, and if I remember correctly, it did win its class. And that's one of the reasons Shelby got the nod to actually work on the GT40s that won.
Now, there's a company called Super Performance. I actually met Alan Grant the other night because they had the original Venice crew panel at the Peterson Automotive Museum, and they're coming out with Ford and Shelby licensed GT 350s and Cobras that are going to be 1,300 horsepower and 2 seconds. And it's pretty amazing. And also, the thing about the documentaries is Nate and Adam are true car guys, and they have a passion for the automobile, and you can see that in the production of their video. I mean, I was so touched. It was a phenomenal movie night, Ken. Thank you.
We had people that were in tears.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think Stormy was crying.
I mean, can you imagine Stormy crying?
He was crying.
I've never seen him cry.
I know.
But we had people exiting, like just kind of like seeing a romantic comedy, or just one of those films where there was just so much with that winning racing life of Paul Newman that you just really felt. You could just feel. And Stormy, as Anna was saying, and others, you'd see the tears rolling down their eyes. They were trying to wipe them away as they exited and went to eat the beef Wellington and all the other stuff.
I go, are you crying? He's like,
no, I wasn't.
Yeah, it showed Paul Newman in a true light, not the movie star, not the icon that people thought about in the movie industry, and it showed him his last few days too. And I didn't realize he was that enthralled in racing. He had his own sprint car, and to work off tension, he'd take that out to the track and drive his sprint car. He lived near a racetrack. He would take a car out and just bash it for a few hours. That was his release, besides his passion. And it showed one of the last, and it showed in the trailer, one of the last drives he actually did at 82 years old. And I honestly did not follow Paul Newman all that much as a star. That didn't do much for me. But seeing him racer, I saw him at Riverside Raceway when I was a young guy just getting into SCCA involvement, driving the Triumphs, and he was not a movie star. When he came to the track, he was Paul Newman the racer, and that's how it was. There was no entourage following him. And that was one of the reasons, and they talked about it in the movie, why he didn't go back to Le Mans.
Yeah.
And
Well, that
back
was
up the
like
win.
Dempsey, the same thing. All the attention he got, which was just totally distracting for him. And, I mean, there were photographers and paparazzi that were actually blocking the car from getting out of the pits. And for a race car driver, that's just got to be excruciatingly painful.
Yeah, and it was great. He had the connection with Dick Barber and the Porsches. Everyone just thinks of him as a Nissan, but, you put a steering wheel in front of him, and he drove it. It didn't matter what it was.
I'm not sure if any of you guys or those in the audience saw one of Jay Leno's final episodes. He had Paul Newman on, and Jay had been practicing all day in his go-karts. They were driving around NBC Studios. And so Jay had been practicing all day so that he could hopefully kick Paul's butt. Paul sits in the car for the first time in this little go-kart. They race around the studios, and Paul kicks Jay's butt. So you can find that video online. It's somewhere on YouTube. God bless YouTube. But yeah, that was I think the last season of Jay's show. He had Paul on, if I recall, but it was very entertaining to watch. And there's a clip of
there it is.
Gosh, Bruce is quick on the buttons. So I think right here they're just kind of doing some talk up to it, and then shortly after, let's see, is this a go-kart thing or just him on there?
I think he's just on there.
It's just him on there.
Yeah.
But I remember Paul was wearing that shirt, so probably later in this show is when they were actually racing around the studio.
That's so funny.
It was just really, really great. But yeah, he was a serious race car driver, and as his wife Joanne Woodward said in the trailer, which of course was taken from the documentary, he almost lost his career over this. He loved it so much. So, he was an icon, certainly of Hollywood's golden era, and just like Dempsey and some of the others, James Garner, who got into big-time off-road racing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of some of the others. I mean, you had James Dean, of course, who went out to the track. Steve McQueen. There's another one.
Yeah. We have Paul Newman's Test and Tune Porsche in the vault at the Peterson, because we're having a Porsche exhibit, and Chad McQueen's got one of his Porsches up on the first floor. So you can go and see those cars in person, which is nice. But yeah, they were car guys, real car guys.
Now, we talked about our club, and this is a club that all of us here belong to. Not necessarily why we're here, but it's the Television and Motion Picture Car Club. Can you tell us a little bit about it? After all, you are the founder.
Yeah, this is something actually that started back in, well, this is what you're seeing on screen right now is something else, not the go-karts, but it's good to have this up anyway, because Jay does happen to be one of our members. And that leads us to why the club was founded. Back in 2009, I was going into my job at CBS Television City, and I ran into one of the actresses in the parking lot who drove in a customized Corvette. So we got to talking, and it turns out she's the hot rodder in the family, not her husband. So she wrenched on the car. She picked out the wheels for the car. So that weekend, I started thinking, there's so many entertainment people, as Anna and Bob just mentioned, whether it was Steve McQueen, who we've lost, and James Garner, who we lost. There's just so many people in entertainment, your current generation, like Dempsey, who we mentioned, Jay Leno. There's Jeff Dunham. There's just a whole host of entertainment industry people in front of the camera and behind the scenes that are into cars. So I thought, why didn't anybody ever start an entertainment industry car club? There's one for just about everything else, whether you own a Volkswagen or a Datsun or whatever it might be. So I got together with a guy named Harvey Berger, who I worked with at CBS TV City. And Harvey passed on a few years ago, but he knew how to get up a website. So he and I rolled over some names for the club. I gave him a list of 5 names. And the 5th name was Television Motion Picture Car Club, and he loved it. And I kind of held it back just to see if that was something he would like. And he loved it. So immediately we had Harvey put up the www.tmpcc.org domain, where we're still at. And the club has grown. Right now we currently limit it to 200 members. 10% of those are non-industry people that are friends of our members and vouched for by our members. It's a very private and exclusive club to get into. And unlike other car clubs where they'll have a membership directory where other members can get in touch with everyone, this is so exclusive and so private, basically because of a lot of the celebrities that are in the club, that the membership directory is only maintained by the president of the club. And it will only go to the vice president if the president passes. So I've been in charge of it for 10 years. This is our 10-year anniversary. This year, the presidency, I basically handed off to my wonderful vice president, Cliff Greenow. And we have a new VP coming in, I'm sorry, I was going to say Ed Greenow, but it's Ed Levitt. And so there's a little change up in administration, but I'm still the founder, senior advisor, and will oversee everything to make sure that the boys stay true to how the club was founded. So pretty much in a nutshell, that's it. It's entertainment industry people. So if you work in any area of the entertainment industry, in front of or behind the scenes, makeup, set design, producers, directors, whatever, just go to our website. You can download the application. If you want to be a sponsor of the club, there's a lot of perks, and you get a lot for your money. And it's a way for us to help drive people that visit our site from around the world over to your company website. So it's just really evolved into a phenomenal club. It's one big family. I mean, Bob and Anna have been with the club for several years. Bruce has been with us for a little over a year now, I believe. And they can all tell you that when you come to one of our events or one that we're at, it really, truly is just one big happy family. And if we have people with attitude, they're out, because we don't want people to come out just to see the celebs in the club. When the celebs do come out, let's say, just for example, let's say Johnny Depp were to come out with something and he'd have a water spot on the car. We'll rib him and go, how dare you? That's just not acceptable. So we treat them like everyone else because they're part of our entertainment industry family and they're part of our TMPCC family. So that's pretty much the club in a nutshell, unless I've left something really important out.
No, we're a really good group of people. We do a number of different events. I've loved when we were doing the July 4th events. We do a car show at CBS Studios. The fireworks were amazing. We do, is it Taste of LA?
Now it's the Flavor of LA. And so we have much more choices now, at least per the food, because there's 40 to 50 different restaurants that are at this thing. And then we've got our car show in conjunction with it. And it happens every May at CBS Studio Center, which is the Radford lot, and it's just a historic studio that dates back to Max Sennett, which I think he started it in like 1926.
Wow.
He was the king of silent comedies, and he's the first one to give Charlie Chaplin a break in American films. Oh, yeah, I mean, this is way back. Charlie apparently had done stuff in England, but Max Sennett had given him his first break in American film. The Keystone Cops, that came out of Studio Center.
Wow.
And some westerns too. Yeah,
oh
a
gosh,
lot of westerns.
John Wayne, Roy Rogers, the guy that owned the Angels. I'm having
Gene Autry.
Gene Autry, yeah. So they all did films out of Studio Center, and now it's busier than ever. There's television production going on, whether it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. For those that love reality television, Big Brother comes out of that studio. Tim Allen's show.
NCIS.
Last Man Standing. Well, we had NCIS New York that came out of there with Gary Sinise. That, of course, got canceled. There's several motion pictures that have been shot there, starring Kurt Russell and some other actors who you may or may not know, and if you're into movies and TV, you know who Kurt Russell is. He's a Hollywood legend. So it's just such a historic studio. So to be able to have done the July 4th shows there was phenomenal. But that had to be canceled. It was getting so popular. It was just becoming a crowd control problem for studio security, LAPD, and all the other security teams that were involved in running that. So now it's part of Flavor of LA and our car show, and you walk through all the cars, you go where the food is, and you've got your choice of 50 restaurants. You've got booze, you've got sampling of all sorts, and you get in for like I think $75 if I recall.
And that's to the public. It's
open to the public.
It's not a closed show. This is open.
This is a chance for the public to come out to a major motion picture studio and television studio and walk around. You have free reign to walk around the studio. You can see the New York Street backlot where the Jerry Seinfeld show was held, the soup Nazi scenes and all that. Yeah, that's on the New York City backlot. And there's also the other part of the backlot where the food and our car show is, which is where My Three Sons was shot, Leave It to Beaver. Some of these old shows that us old-timers remember, the young kids might be watching them on Nickelodeon or on YouTube. But unfortunately, we're all giving away our age here, other than probably Anna, who's probably a generation younger than us.
Yeah, she's 12. We're talking chronological, not mental here.
But the show is fun because you can come out and you can see a bunch of really cool cars that our members own. We have some actual movie and television cars as well for the kids and the older folks who just love seeing real deal movie cars. And one of our sponsors is Cinema Vehicles. And last year they brought Eleanor, a real Eleanor, to the show, and we had a jib crane camera chase car that was right next to it, so we had it kind of set up like we were doing a little movie scene.
Nice.
And I can't remember the name of Robert Streeper's company right now, the movie car, but if you look up Robert Streeper, hopefully his camera crane company will come up. But it's just a chance for anyone and everyone to be able to come to CBS Studio Center, look at some cars. If you're not a car guy, partake in all the food and drink that's there. It's just a really, really fun, relaxing event for the whole family.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have unfortunately run out of time.
This is ridiculous.
Time flies by fast when you're having fun, and we've been having fun. But I'll tell you what, a lot of people have just tuned in. They've missed the beginning of the show. It's going into our what we call
the
encore
presentation.
Yeah. It's coming up right after we close off today's show. We want to thank Ken Latka for coming in today and showing us the trailers. For those of you who didn't know that Adam Carolla was involved, and for those of you who don't know who Adam Carolla is, you didn't watch TV much because the men's show, and he's heavily involved. As a matter of fact, one of the jokes that he told us when he introduced the movie Winning was his dad told him, always hold on to your day job because you never know what's going to happen. He was on the men's show for a number of years. He's got a radio show, and he's still a gardener. So he's held on to his daytime job. But we got a great group of people. Like Ken said, come out to the Flavor of L.A. at the studio. Watch for it. Our club members are great people. The cars are great. We introduced the Hearst line of vehicles at our shows for the last 3 years.
And some of the some unveilings of some of the Mr. Norm's car with Larry Weiner, who designs and builds these things. So you can visit the TMPCC website or visit us on Facebook, because about a month before the event we'll start plugging it heavily, and we'll give you a preview of some of the cars that are expected to show up. And I should probably shut it down there, or you're really going to run out of time.
We're going to run out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, like me on Facebook, then you can see this show. Go to gotgas.com, G-A-A-S, the Great American Auto Scene, and you can check out some of our older shows as well. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Hot Rod Bob, along with Anna Octane, Ken Latka, and, as always, behind the scenes, working the boards, Bruce Parker. Take care, folks.